Hi, and welcome to Art with Mrs. Torres. Today we are going to be making a Thanksgiving turkey. This is going to be a fun project, and I'm hoping that once we're finished drawing this will be something that you can teach your family how to draw on Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to doing the project with you. You're not going to need really any difficult supplies. You probably already have these things in your house. You're going to need an eraser, a pencil, and a marker of some sort. I use Sharpie markers. You're going to need something to color with. Today I'm going to be using crayons, but you could also use markers if you have those. And then the last thing you need is a piece of paper. So you can use the paper that comes out of your printer, or you can use some construction paper, or you can use nicer paper if you have it. So go ahead and gather those items up and meet me back here, and then I'll teach you how to draw a turkey. Welcome back. Okay, you've got a piece of paper, a pencil, an eraser, a marker of some sort. I'm using a Sharpie marker, and something to color with. I'm going to be using crayons. However, you can also use markers if you have them. So let's get ready to draw our turkey. Now the first thing we're going to do is make our paper tall like a door. We're going to find the center of our paper like we always do and make a small pencil dot in the middle of our paper. So when we make that pencil dot there, that's going to help us to place the head of our turkey right underneath that dot. So when I'm looking at my piece of paper, I'm going to go right here and make a circle for the head. And I'm not worried about the circle being perfectly round. I'm just creating a nice big circle for his head. And we're making a tom turkey today, which means a male turkey. Next, I'm going to be drawing the body. So I'm going to draw one line that comes out from either side of the bottom of his face, or his head. And then I'm just going to draw a rounded curve underneath. This is going to be our turkey's chest. Now the next thing I'm going to do is draw a curved shape on the side for his wing. I'm going to match it on the other side. And then I'm going to draw his back coming from behind his head. So I'm just going to go like this and draw a little bit more of his back. Now I'm going to show you a photograph of a real turkey in just a minute, but I want to keep going on our cartoon turkey. And you'll see that our turkey is going to look a little bit different compared to a real turkey. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to give him feet. So I'm going to go right here underneath his stomach, right in the very center. I'm going to make a little dot. And from that area, I'm going to make the letter upside down V. Now that is going to help me draw his feet. So on this side, I'm going to draw 3 toes, and then I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to come up here to the top of his head, and I'm going to draw a little bit of feathers on the top of his head. And we're going to work on drawing his face. So I'm going to come to the center of the circle here, and this is where I'm going to start his beak. And I'm going to start by drawing a wide curved line. Now make sure that you're making this kind of wide. It's not an arched rainbow, it's a little bit more wide. And then under that, I'm going to draw the letter V. So that's going to be his beak. So we did a circle or an oval for the body, his arms or wings, and then a little bit of a curve for his back. This is actually a bunch of feathers on his back before we get to his tail feathers. Then his feet are underneath. All right, so the next part of our turkey is we're going to draw this piece of skin that hangs over his beak. It curves around and it comes back like this. Now that is called his snood. That's a funny word, huh? Snood. Next, we're going to draw our turkey's eyes. So I'm going to come over here and draw a round circle on one side and a round circle on the other. Now, part of his eye is going to be hidden behind his snood. And then you can decide what style eyeballs you're going to do. and where you want your turkey to be looking. I'm going to be having my turkey look kind of right in front. And then on his neck here, he has another section of skin, and this is called the wattle. And I will show you a photo of it in just a minute. I'm going to just keep drawing first, and then we'll come back to it in just a minute. I'm going to add one more little bump right here. All right, so now our next part of our turkey is to draw the tail feathers. So what I'm going to do is let me just darken his head right here. And we're going to come up to the top of his head and draw his tail feathers. So when we're drawing his tail feathers, we're going to draw like a large fan. So it does kind of look like a shell, a seashell or a fan, doesn't it? And so what we're going to do is go to the top of his head and draw a line coming right out of the top of his head. So I'm just going to come up, 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 almost to the top of the paper. And then from here, I'm going to draw a curved line that comes all the way around this way. And it's also going to come all the way around this way. Now, before I do that, I do want to make sure that his tail feathers come back to kind of like a point. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw an angled line coming from this side. And I'm going to match it on this side. So I'm just kind of drawing an angled line that's coming toward the edge of the paper. And so this is the space that I'm going to draw this round curved line for his tail feathers. So I'm just going to very lightly bring it up, around, and back to the other side. Now once I have that line drawn here, that's going to be my guide for drawing his tail feathers. So as you can see on my tail feathers here, each line comes right back to the center of his body. So they all kind of line up with the center. If you put the pencil down here, you could see that each time I tilt my pencil one more direction, they all still line up with right here, the middle of his feet. So if I draw an imaginary line from the top of his head, the top of his tail down to between his feet, I can do a next line the same way. See, it would line up with his foot, middle of his foot right here, and another line would line up here, and then I can probably fit one more here. So see, if I was to draw it right through his body, it would connect right down here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm looking right here where the center is between his toes. I'm going to come up to the top here and draw a line that lines up with where I'm holding my finger here and here. And one more there. Now, don't worry if all of your lines are not evenly spaced or if you have more on one side, it doesn't matter. Now, the next part of our turkey is to round each section by itself. So this top right here, that's one feather. That's a separate feather. And this one. And this one. And I think I might be able to fit one little baby feather right there. It's starting to look like a shell, isn't it? I'm going to do the same thing here. Round. So I'm just rounding each feather. I think I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side. Make one extra feather. Okay, so when I'm finished with that, then I'm going to now show you what a real turkey looks like. Are you ready? Because he doesn't quite look like this. So this is a real turkey. I want you to look at his face. So as you can tell, we made our turkey look similar to this, but a little cuter. We drew that section that hangs over his beak. That's called the snood. And we drew this section right here, which is called the wattle. And we drew his tail feathers in a fan, just like we did back here. So now that we've done one row of tail feathers, we can add another row later with our marker. So first, we're going to just go over everything with our Sharpie marker. So I'm going to move my pencil aside, and I'm just going to start tracing over all the lines I want to keep. And as you are tracing over your lines, we will erase when we're done all of our pencil lines. So I'm just going over quickly, and you'll notice that as I'm working with my pen, I work very quickly. The faster that you work with this Sharpie marker, if you're working with a marker, the faster that you draw with it, the cleaner your line is going to be. It's not going to look so bumpy and scratchy. So I try to work quickly. I also try to be careful that I'm not pushing down too hard on the marker, because you know what happens when we push down too hard on the marker. It makes that horrible squeaking sound. So for the eyes, you can leave them and color them all solid black, like I did on my picture here. Or you can add a little bit of a shiny light up at the top. So I just don't color it all the way in. I just leave a little space up at the top for a little shiny light. You don't have to do that. And then I'm just going to come down here and trace his stomach. And then for his wings, I'm going to make his wings a little bit more fluffy. So at the bottom, I'm just going to kind of give him a little wobbly line like this. Almost looks like fingers. And then, let me show you this section of his back that I was telling you about. You see behind his head, he has a whole nother section back here of this big, fuzzy, feathery back. It's not a part of his tail feathers, so it's a separate section. That's why I showed you this photo too, so you could kind of see it. He has his swelled up right now because he's kind of showing off. So I'm just going to round this line here and here to make it match. And then I'm going to come down here to the bottom and draw his feet. So you can see here, on this one, I just kind of drew his toes kind of tucked underneath. And if you want to do that, you could do that as well. Just go like this and tuck his toes underneath his body like that. And then when we get up to his tail feathers, I start at the top and I pull my line down. It's much easier when you're working with a marker to bring your marker from top to bottom than it is to push your marker up. So I'm going to draw all of these lines first. And when I'm done tracing all these side lines, then I'll go over and trace the top. Now you might notice that as I'm tracing over these lines, sometimes I'm not right exactly on my pencil line. And if that happens to you too, don't worry, it's okay. Next, I'm going to trace the top of each tail feather. And I'm just giving it a little bit of a curve. And when you get over here to the edge, you might end up having your tail feathers go all the way off the side of the paper, and that's okay. Notice I'm turning my paper. It's a little bit more comfortable for me to turn my paper than it is for me to try to turn my hand sideways. This is a little bit harder for me to turn my hand sideways. All right, when I'm all done drawing those lines for my turkey, what I'm going to do now is go over all of my lines one more time so that they're nice and dark. I like to have a little bit darker outline. You don't have to do that, but if you would like to do that, then you can pause the video right now and retrace all the lines and then meet me back here. So I'm going to pause my video. I'm going to retrace my lines and make my outline a little bit darker, and then I'll meet you back here in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. I now have my turkey all traced. I went over all the lines on the outside edge a second time just to make them a little darker. And now I'm going to go in and erase my pencil lines. So you're going to take your magic rub eraser or the end of your pencil if you don't have a separate eraser, and you're going to go in and very gently go in and erase all of your pencil lines. Now I hold my hand like this when I'm erasing, and so my paper does not get wrinkled as I'm going over my pencil lines. Now, most of your pencil lines are all going to get covered up anyway when you color, but I like to get rid of the big ones, the ones that are really a little bit too dark. The lighter that you draw, the less work it's going to take to erase your pencil lines also. Remember, I changed my toes, so I've got to erase those. They looked a little different earlier. So now I think we're ready. So at this point, you can decide how you want to color your turkey. You could use crayons, you could use markers, you could paint your picture if you have watercolors. You could use colored pencils. If you have chalk pastels, you could use chalk pastels. There's so many different options now that you know how to draw your turkey. So in my picture, I used crayons. And the way I used my crayons is I started with a light brown and I colored brown all over my turkey's head and body. And then because when I looked at the photograph of the turkey, I saw that the turkey had a very red chin, the section of his skin that hangs down underneath his beak. His wattle is bright red. So I first colored my turkey brown and then I added a little red to it at the bottom. I made his snood red. In the photograph, his snood is a light pink, but I made it red. Now you might notice that the turkey has a blue head. This is a wild turkey. And when I was reading about turkeys, it said that when turkeys feel a little bit stressed or afraid, that they will, their heads will turn blue. I thought that was really interesting. So he must have been a kind of stressed out turkey. Now, if you notice the colors of the tail feathers, I took both of these pictures from the internet because the tails were very different. This one was all very dark brown and gray, and this turkey had rust and brown and orange and a little bit of white in his feathers. So you really could color your turkey any color you would, whatever you want to work with. I colored his back right here a little darker, but you don't have to. You could color it the same color as him. So I think this is a really easy project and fun for you to teach someone else too. Remember, we started out with a circle. We did a second circle underneath. We made two shapes on the side that kind of looked like an arm to create the wings. We drew some toes underneath. When we got ready to do the beak, we started with a wide rainbow and we made the letter V underneath. We did a rounded curve that looks like a worm. That's a snood. And then we drew big eyes. You can choose to make your pupils all the way black or put a highlight in there. You notice that I gave my turkey some eyelids, and how I did that is you just take your marker and you just add a little extra line like this. Kind of changes the look of your turkey. And then when I was coloring, you'll notice that I took my crayons, and the way that I color is I actually just scribble in a rainbow. So I scribble up and down like this across the entire back side of all of the feathers. I did this all the way around with each color. So I hope you had fun today learning how to draw a turkey. I can't wait to see your pictures when you're done. Now, when you are finished drawing your picture, why don't you send me an email to rtorres@lcusd.net. And I'm wishing your family a happy Thanksgiving.